Welcome to the English Reader. Today's story is The Ransom of Red Chief by O. Henry. First published in 1907, it is one of the funniest short stories ever written. Let's begin. It looked like a good thing, but wait till I tell you. We were down south in Alabama, Bill Driscoll and myself, when this kidnapping idea struck us. It was, as Bill afterward expressed it, during a moment of temporary mental apparition. But we didn't find that out till later. There was a town down there, as flat as a flannel cake, and called Summit, of course. It contained inhabitants of as undeleterous and self-satisfied a class of peasantry as ever clustered around a maypole. Bill and me had a joint capital of about $600, and we needed just $2,000 more to pull off a fraudulent town lot scheme in western Illinois. We talked it over on the front porch of the hotel. Philoprogenitivity, says we, is strong in semi-rural communities. Therefore, and for other reasons, a kidnapping project ought to do better there than in the radius of newspapers that send reporters out in plain clothes to stir up talk about such things. We knew that Summit couldn't get after us with anything stronger than constables and maybe some lackadaisical bloodhounds and a diatribe or two in the weekly farmer's budget, so it looked good.
We selected for our victim the only child of a prominent citizen named Ebenezer Dorset. The father was respectable and tight, a mortgage fancier, and a stern, upright collection plate passer and forecloser. The kid was a boy of 10, with bas-relief freckles and hair the colour of the cover of the magazine you buy at the newsstand when you want to catch a train. Bill and me figured that Ebenezer would melt down for a ransom of $2,000 to a cent. But wait till I tell you. About 2 miles from Summit was a little mountain covered with a dense cedar brake. On the rear elevation of this mountain was a cave. There we stored provisions.
One evening after sundown, we drove in a buggy past old Dorset's house. The kid was in the street, throwing rocks at a kitten on the opposite fence. "Hey, little boy," says Bill, "would you like to have a bag of candy and a nice ride?" The boy catches Bill neatly in the eye with a piece of brick. "That will cost the old man an extra $500, says Bill, climbing over the wheel. That boy put up a fight like a welterweight cinnamon bear, but at last we got him down in the bottom of the buggy and drove away. We took him up to the cave, and I nicknamed him Red Chief. "Red Chief," says I to the kid, "you are now in the camp of your Indian captors. You will be held for ransom. If you try to escape, we will scalp you." Now, I was expecting that kid to be scared to death, but nothing of the kind. He sits on a rock and begins to whoop and holler like an Indian.
"I like this," says he. "I never had such fun in all my life. I'm going to be an Indian scout. You're going to be an outlaw, and I'm going to be the chief. We'll have a war dance every night." And he begins to dance around the cave, making the most horrible noises you ever heard. Bill and me looked at each other. This was not going according to plan. "Red Chief," says I, "do you know that you are a prisoner? You must obey us. If you don't, we will punish you." "You can't do nothing to me," says the kid. "I'm Red Chief, and I'm on the warpath. You better watch out." And he picks up a big rock and throws it at my head. I duck, and the rock hits Bill right on the shin. "Ow!" yells Bill. "That boy is the worst I ever saw. He's got his father's meanness in him. I'm afraid he'll kill us before we get the ransom."
"Don't worry," says I. "He's just having fun. Tomorrow we'll send the ransom note and then we'll be rid of him." That night we tried to get some sleep, but Red Chief kept us awake. He imitated a war dance, then a scout's signal, then a dying warrior's groan. He told us stories about his adventures. He wanted to know if we had any blankets, because he was cold. He wanted to know if we had any candy. He wanted to know if we had any guns. He wanted to know everything. At about 2 o'clock, Bill sits up and says, "Sam, do you think that anybody in Summit would pay $2,000 for this howling, screaming, fighting little fiend?" "I think they would," says I. "He's the only child of a rich man. They'd pay anything to get him back." "But what if they don't?" says Bill. "What if they're glad to be rid of him?"
I didn't answer. I was beginning to have my doubts. The next morning, I wrote a letter to Old Man Dorset. I said, "We have your boy. He is safe. If you pay us $2,000, we will return him. If you do not pay, we will never see you again. Bring the money to the cave at midnight. No police, no tricks." I signed it, "Two Desperate Men." I gave the letter to Bill and told him to take it to town and leave it at the post office. Bill went, but he came back looking pale. "What's the matter?" I asked. "I saw the kid's father," says Bill. "He was coming out of the post office. He looked at me kind of funny. I think he suspects something."
"Don't worry," says I. "He won't do anything. He's afraid for his boy."
But I was wrong. Old Man Dorset was not afraid. He was smart. The next day, we got a letter back. It said, "Gentlemen, I have received your letter. I am willing to pay you the ransom, but I think you have the wrong boy. My son is a handful. I have tried to raise him right, but he is a terror. If you can keep him for a few more days, I will pay you $250 to take him off my hands, but I will not pay $2,000. If you agree, bring him home tonight, and I will pay you. If not, you can keep him. Yours truly, Ebenezer Dorset." Bill and me read the letter. Bill started to laugh, but it was not a happy laugh. $250, he says. He wants us to pay him to take his own son back. That's the worst thing I ever heard. "It's a trick," says I. "He's trying to make us give up. We'll hold out for $2,000. But Red Chief was getting worse. He called himself Red Chief and made us call him that. He made Bill be his horse. He made Bill get down on his hands and knees, and then he rode him around the cave. He hit Bill with a stick to make him go faster. Bill was exhausted.
"Sam," says he, "I can't stand it. I'm going to take him back. I don't care about the money. I just want to be free." "Wait," says I. "Let me think." I thought for a long time. Then I wrote another letter to Old Man Dorset. I said, "Mr. Dorset, we agree to your terms. We will bring your son home tonight. You will pay us $250, but you must also promise not to tell the police. We are desperate men, but we are not criminals. We just made a mistake. Please meet us at the cave at midnight." I signed it, "Two Tired Men." That night, we took Red Chief down the mountain. The kid was happy. He thought he was going on a new adventure. He was singing and whooping all the way. When we got to the cave, Old Man Dorset was waiting. He had a bag of money in his hand.
"Here is your $250, says he. "Now take this boy and never come back." "Gladly," says I. But Red Chief was not ready to leave. He grabbed my leg. "No!" he yelled. "I don't want to go home. I want to stay with my Indian captors. They are more fun than my father. Let me stay." Old Man Dorset looked at me. "You see," he says, "he's a handful. I told you." Bill grabbed the kid and tried to hand him to his father, but the kid fought like a wildcat. He bit Bill on the hand. He kicked me in the shin. He screamed and hollered. Finally, Bill picked him up and threw him into his father's arms. "Take him," Bill shouted. "Take him and never let me see him again." Old Man Dorset paid us the $250. Then he walked away with his son, who was still yelling and kicking. Bill and me stood there for a minute. Then Bill said,
"Sam, do you know what? I think we got the worst of this deal. We started out to get $2,000. We ended up paying $250 to get rid of that boy, and we are lucky to get away with our lives."
"You're right," says I, "but we learned something. Never kidnap a red-headed kid." And we walked away into the night, poorer but wiser. Thank you for listening to The Ransom of Red Chief by O. Henry on The English Reader. If you enjoyed this story, please like and subscribe. New classic readings every week. Until next time, happy reading.